Now let's start looking at some numbers. So let's kind of take a step back and think about what we actually mean by an exchange rate. An exchange rate, let's say between the yen and the dollar or the dollar and the euro, is really nothing but the price. It's the price of one country's currency in terms of another. So for example, you can think about traveling from the United States to Japan. If you exchange dollars into Japanese yen, you're basically buying Japanese yen. You're paying dollars for each yen that you want to have. So it's really the price. As an example, let's say we are looking at the exchange rate between the US dollar and the Chinese yuan, CNY. The exchange rate for Chinese yuan is the amount of Chinese yuan per $1 because it's really the price. And let's say that's 6.83 Chinese yuan per $1. So for example, if American tourists travel to China, they bring dollars to the local banks, and the local banks for every dollar will give them 6.83 Chinese yuan. So it takes, and also the other way around, let's say Chinese people come to visit the United States, they would be paying 6.83 Chinese yuan to buy each US dollar. So it kind of goes both directions. Instead, we can write the exchange rate, the same exact exchange rate between the Chinese yuan and the US dollar differently. We can instead write 1 Chinese yuan equals 0.15 of a US dollar. How do you think I went from $1 equals 6.83 Chinese yuan to 1 Chinese yuan equals 0.15 of a dollar? Well, we had an example similar to this a few slides earlier, the one where I explained the cross rate. So if you look at this first expression with which we started, right? $1 equals 6.83 of a Chinese yuan. If you want to have 1 Chinese yuan, then we would need to divide 6.83 by 6.83. So it gives us 1. If we do that for both sides of this little equation, right? So if you also divide $1 on the left-hand side by 6.83, then we get 0.15 of a dollar, or 15 US cents. So you can notice that the two numbers, for example, 6.83 and 0.15, they're related kind of in a reciprocal way to one another. For example, we can also go back from the second expression, 1 Chinese yuan equals 0.15 of a dollar, to the first expression, $1 equals 6.83 Chinese yuan, by dividing both sides, the left-hand side and the right-hand side in the first expression, or the second one, by the number that we want to be 1 instead. So if we want to see $1 instead of 0.15 of a dollar, we need to divide both 1 Chinese yuan and 0.15 of a dollar by 0.15. And this is how we would get $1 on the right-hand side. And on the left-hand side, when we take 1 and divide it by 0.15, we get 6.83 Chinese yuan. Okay, let's do another example. You are traveling to Germany. You arrived to your hotel, you went downstairs to the lobby and decided to exchange $50 into euros. The person in the lobby gives you back 34.02 euros. Question: what was the exchange rate that was used for this transaction? And it needs to be expressed in terms of euros per $1 as well as in terms of dollars per 1 euro. So we want to do two calculations that will mean the same thing. Solution. So first, we know that $50 is equivalent to 34.02 of a euro, right? So we can just set the two numbers equal to each other. $50 equals 34.02 of a euro. Then, if you want to write the exchange rate in terms of how many euros it is per $1, then where we have $50, we want it to be now $1. So we want to divide 50 by 50. And we will do that for both sides of this equation. So we divide both sides by 50. And we get $50 divided by 50 on the left-hand side. And on the right-hand side, we have 34.02 of a euro divided by 50. When you simplify it, you get $1 on the left-hand side equals 0.68 of a euro on the right-hand side. This is the exchange rate between the dollar and the euro expressed in terms of euros per $1. But there is always another way, right? And that's the second part of our question. Let's express the exchange rate in terms of dollars per 1 euro. So we want to go back to, these, equivalents between $50 and 34.02 euros, right? This time we are saying we want to see 1 euro. So where we want to have 1, the number that we have there currently is what we need to divide both sides of this equation by. So to get 1 euro instead of 34.02 euros, we need to divide 34.02 euros by 34.02. And we also do that division for the left-hand side, which is $50. So $50 divided by 34.02 equals 34.02 euros divided also by 34.02. When this is simplified, on the left-hand side, where we have dollars, we get 1.47 of a dollar, $1.47. And on the right-hand side, we have the 1 euro that was our goal. So we have just answered the question. We found the implied exchange rate between the dollar and the euro two different ways. First, $1 equals 0.68 of a euro, and second, 1 euro equals 1.47 of a dollar. Notice that to find that second exchange rate expression, 1 euro equals 1.47 of a dollar, we could do it a bit differently. We could start with the first exchange rate expression, $1 equals 0.68 euros, and divide both the left-hand side of it and the right-hand side of it by 0.68. And that would give us the same answer. When $1 is divided by 0.68 on the left-hand side, we get $1.47. And then when the right-hand side, 0.68 of a euro, is also divided by 0.68, we get 1 euro remaining.